Good evening. The Anchorage Municipality Platting Board will now come to order. It is May 19th, 2021. May we have roll call?
Valerie Ritz.
Present.
Clayton Walker.
Present.
Kevin Cross.
Present.
Don Porter.
Present.
Mark Seward.
Present.
Jenna Weltzine.
Present.
Karen McGillivray.
Present.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the action summary from Wednesday, April 7th, 2021? Kevin Cross has moved. Valerie Ritz has seconded. All in favor, please state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very well. Hearing any nays? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. We'll next turn to minutes from April 7th. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 7th? Kevin Cross has moved. Valerie Ritz has seconded. Are there any corrections or changes that need to be made to the minutes?
Yes, through the chair.
Yes.
It looks here that we have a request on the May 19th, 2021 minutes on page 5. Third line down, we're going to change the word shine to sign. Yes, ma'am. It's not on the minutes.
Through the chair, the minutes that are on the agenda already are for April 7th. We needed to do a motion to add to the agenda, add the May minutes to the agenda for correction.
You're talking, okay.
Thank you.
As
Well, how do you want to handle it to amend them?
well, it looks like that the one that needs to be corrected is the February 8th, 2021.
Oh, that was February.
So but it's not on the agenda, so as a point of order, we'll need to add it. But
I
as long
thought
as
it was
you
the
have
May
your
minutes.
motion on the floor, we'll just go ahead and approve these minutes that doesn't need any corrections.
Done. Approve minutes without corrections.
Is there any opposition to or any other corrections on the April 7th minutes? Hearing and seeing none, the motion will pass. Next, we will, as a point of order, ask for an item 2B to be added for the February 3rd, 2021. Kevin has moved to change the order of the day to add an item B2B for approving the February 3rd, 2021 minutes correction. And Valerie Ritz has seconded. Is there any opposition to hearing the motion? Hearing and seeing none, the order of agenda has changed, and we'll now take up the request to correct our minutes from February 3rd, 2021. Kevin has moved. Would you please state your motion with respect to corrections?
In regards to corrections, on page 5, Board Member Lipson's comments should read as follows. While she understood the planning department has a lot of decisions to make and a lot of correspondence of these type of matters, she encourages the director to sign, removing the word shine. A concurrence on a persuasively written letter from the petitioner has, we're going to remove the word got with bad, optics for the general public and the Glen Alps Road Board.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Valerie Ritz has seconded. Are there any other corrections that anyone proposes that we make? In the same paragraph, the third sentence leads off with the word appearings. I think she meant hearings. Shareholders prior to the hearings. Is there any opposition to making the proposed changes? Hearing and seeing none, is there no opposition? The motion passes unanimously. Next, we will turn to special order of business on disclosures.
Through the chair.
Yes.
This is Jana Weltzine. I need to abstain from voting on D2A. I wasn't here last meeting.
You're not going to vote on B2A?
D as in dog, 2A.
Oh, okay.
I'll be abstaining from that vote.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair.
Are there any other disclosures?
This is Karen McGilvery through the chair.
Yes, Karen?
I'll need to abstain from voting on D as in dog, to B, the findings of fact for Canyon View Estate. I was not on the board during the first hearing and was asked by management to not participate in the rehearing. So I will abstain from voting on case S12545, the finding of fact.
Thank you. And do you have any other disclosures from the board? Mark Stewart.
In case S12610, as you can see on page 14 of the packet, I was the surveyor of record for that property, but I have no beneficial interest or I do not know the current owners. I actually did the survey work, I think it was GMC that owned it. I can hear the case and make my decisions on the facts that I hear at the board hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion directing Mark Stewart to participate in case S12610? Kevin Cross, please state your motion.
Yeah, regarding case 12610, petitioner Michael Quinn Construction, Inc., I move that Mark Seward participate. He has stated that although he did the as-built and did the original as-built on the property, or the one, he does not have any prior knowledge regarding the plat, the petitioner's request, and can remain impartial and fair in his judgment and reasoning.
Thank you. Your motion has been seconded by Valerie Ritz. And are there any other findings the board would like to make? Hearing and seeing none, I would also make the finding that he did state he has no financial interest in the outcome of the matter. With that, we will call the vote.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Ms. Weltzine?
Yes.
Ms. McGillivray?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
Chair Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Seward has abstained. Thank you.
Mr. Mark Seward, you will be directed to participate in case S12610. Are there any other disclosures from the board? Seeing and hearing none. We will now look at the informational items for the abbreviated plat summaries from March 30, 2021 and May 3rd, 2021. We will now turn to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to consider the consent agenda? Kevin Cross has moved, and the motion has been seconded by Valerie Ritz. Consent agenda consists of case S12599, request for revision of the condition of approval for a preliminary plat, and approval of case S12545, Canyon View Estates subdivision. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we'll call the vote on the consent agenda.
Mr. Porter?
Aye.
Ms. Weltzine?
Yes.
Ms. McGillivray?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Seward?
Yes.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
And the 2 abstentions will be noted. Thank you.
We will now proceed with new business. The Platting Board meets each month on the first and third Wednesday, except for holidays, as regular meetings. If the Platting Board fails to complete its agenda for its regular meeting, the board carries over the remainder of the agenda to the following meeting. The procedure by which the public is allowed to speak at the Platting Board is, after staff's presentation is complete on the public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the following time limits established by the Commission Rules of Procedure. Petitioners and their representatives will have 10 minutes. Part of their time may be reserved for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, community councils, and PTAs are given 5 minutes. Individuals have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, the board may ask you follow-up questions. You may only testify once on a given issue unless the board questions you further. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of its conditions is governed by Anchorage Municipal Code 21.11.304. The decision of the board at the scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the date the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances per AMC 21-11-503, or an appeal of the board's final appealable decision under Anchorage Municipal Code 2130. With that, we will now turn to new business. And may we have staff's presentation of case S12607, Colony Builders, Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to subdivide 2 lots into 12 lots with a variance from AMC 2108-030F5 street intersections, requiring the distance between intersection center lines to be at least 150 feet. The proposed street is offset approximately 66 feet from Saunders Road as they intersect with DeArmond Road. This request is being made to develop the property for future single-family residential dwellings on the proposed 12 lots. The property is zoned R6, and the proposed lots meet the minimum lot size and width required by the R6 zoning district. In the matter of the internal road, the petitioner shall construct the internal road to municipal standards as a 20-foot wide strip paved street and dedicate and construct a 50-foot right-of-way from the internal road with a 50-foot radius cul-de-sac. Direct access from Lot 10 onto Buena Vista Drive is prohibited. Policy 14.0 of the Hillside District Plan, it establishes lighting standards for street lighting at intersections that are necessary for safety reasons. As stated in the upcoming variance narrative, the intersection of DeArmond Road and the proposed road does not meet intersection sight distance of 500 feet, and staff believes that an intersection streetlight will improve safety. So staff is requesting a condition to provide intersection lighting per the Hillside District Plan and traffic's recommendation. For trails, there are no trails identified in the area-wide trails plan and Hillside District Plan internal to the subdivision. Existing and proposed trails are shown on the plans along with existing DeArmond Road and our own line right-of-way. That's 100 feet in width. The Rabbit Creek Community Council comments desire a trail connection between the proposed subdivision and our own lane. The code for internal street connectivity states, whenever cul-de-sacs are created, at least one 10-foot wide pedestrian access right-of-way or easement shall be provided to the extent reasonable. This requirement shall not apply where it result in damage to or intrusion into significant natural areas such as steep slopes. In that matter, planning is not recommending a 10-foot pedestrian easement as a condition due to the concerns over slope stability and erosion on steep slopes that exceed 50% grade in some sections where that trail would go. In conformance with the adopted plans, the preliminary plat appears to conform with the petition site's land use classification, as well as the following policies from the 2040 Anchorage Land Use Plan. Policy 4.1, this subdivision is located within a rural area of the municipality, which will provide additional lots for those seeking a rural large lot to purchase. Policy 5.1, the rural development of the subdivision is in keeping with the context of the surrounding neighborhood. For drainage and slope, private development has requested plans to demonstrate that all post-development drainage patterns will not adversely impact adjacent properties prior to final plat approval. Private development has reviewed the concerns of the public and has recommended special conditions limiting the maximum disturbance envelope of lots 5, 6, and 7, including review and approval of any grading and building permits on said lots. So the petitioner's representative surveyed over 500 points in the subdivision in the month of April. Combine that with the existing topo data to create the map labeled Exhibit A, which is on page 14 of the staff packet. So that map shows the shaded areas of slope over 30%. AMC 2108-030H, subdivision on slopes, requires that subdivisions 5 acres or more and 30% of the entire property to be subdivided has slopes 30% or greater shall include a geotechnical report. So the subdivision does not meet the requirement as only 19% of the property is over 30% slopes. The subdivision is a mix on the Harding-Lawson seismic zone of 1, 2, and 3, and that's from lowest ground failure to moderate ground failure susceptibility. So private development's comments, they address the concern to mitigate the potential for erosion and or slope failure at the southern edge of the property where the slopes are present. Private development has requested conditions that require review of those lots with slopes before any building or grading permits are issued, in addition to maximum disturbance envelopes on each lot. So that has it pretty well covered. So that staff has made those conditions of approval for the preliminary plat. And planning, furthermore, has reviewed the agency comments and is requesting like a non-disturbance area over that slope where it's in excess of 30%. And even though the code also specifically states anything over 30% needs to be protected. So variance request, the petitioner's requesting a variance from AMC 2108030F5, and that's the distance between intersection center lines, as it shall be at least 150 feet. This will allow the petitioner to create the proposed subdivision road that is separated only 66 feet west of Saunders Road. The road will access DeArmond, which is a Class 1 collector in the official Streets and Highways Plan. So Standard 1, planning finds that that standard is met. Access to the subdivision from the existing Buena Vista right-of-way to the west would meet the subdivision regulations, but would be clearly undesirable to the general public, as it would create unsafe conditions due to the existing road grade of approximately 11% and would require significant modifications and cost to DeArmond Road. The intersection site distance would be compromised and would create an unsafe condition for traffic. The safest solution is for access to the northeast, connecting with DeArmond Road, where the grades are a little bit flatter. Staff finds condition 2 is met. The variance will allow the proposed subdivision access to DeArmond Road in the safest connection point available. The applicant has stated that that intersection will be closer away to the four-way stop to the east, where traffic is either slowing or accelerating. With the speeds will be under 40 miles per hour, the posted limit. So granting the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the other people's property in the area. Staff finds condition 3 is met. The subdivision road shown on the preliminary plat will provide legal and physical access to all lots within the proposed subdivision, while providing this connection at a safer grade and location. Let's see here, without nullifying the applicable subdivision regulations. Standard 4, staff finds that has been met. Undue hardship would result for the petitioner from strict compliance with the subdivision regulations. The impacts associated with connection through Buena Vista Drive would require significant modifications and associated costs to lower the grades and meet site distances. Those connecting local roads would make the project economically unviable to change that whole road prism like that. The proposed location of the subdivision road is the safest and economical solution for access. So with that being said, staff finds approval of the variance and approval of the plat, subject to conditions found on page 11, 12, and 13 of the staff packet. However, I would like to, 13A, I'd like to modify that. We just need to eliminate lots 1. So it just says provide 30-foot radius intersection for lot 12. And the reason behind that is if you turn to the actual plat, or if you look at page 14, the radius, you notice the road butts up against the property line there, and they're not able to provide kind of that radius out to the DeArmond. However, that's the dedicated right-of-way, which will be 50 feet. They're going to have half on lot 12 of the radius. Within that 50 feet, they just have to build a 20-foot road with the radius, and that's easily doable in the configuration that they're showing. And that's all I have. I can answer any questions, and the petitioner's representative is here as well.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff at this time? Kevin Cross.
Thank you. Just for clarification on 13A, we're just going to remove and 12, so it's just for lots 1?
The opposite. Provide 30-foot radius intersection for lot 12.
All right, for lot 12. I also noticed, although it's probably inconsequential, but I do want to note that I think there's another one, page 5 under paragraph 10C. It says lots 1 and lots 21. I think that was supposed to be 12, but I guess it doesn't matter. We're just eliminating the lots 1 on that one.
Correct. That's traffic department's comments.
I think that they just flipped the 1 and 2 on that, just for clarification, if we want to make a note to a correction in the packet for the public record. But excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we will now take the petitioner's representative.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, and planning staff. My name is Craig Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T, with S4 Group, and I represent the petitioner tonight. With me is Triad Engineering and Northern Geotechnical Engineering. As staff stated, the platting application is a request to subdivide a little over 17 acres into 12 lots. The lots are zoned R6, 1 acre minimum. There is an existing home on proposed lot 12, so 11 new homes. The subdivision has access via DeArmond Road with a cul-de-sac. The only variance being requested is for the intersection location, and that's because of topographical constraints of Upper DeArmond. There's a slope on the southern portion of this project as shown on page 14. And because of this steep slope, we'll have a plat note prohibiting disturbance and protect this slope as shown in conditions 11 and 12F. Northern Geotechnical Engineering can answer any questions the board has about the slope itself. And as staff stated, they recommend approval of this subdivision. And we concur with most of the department recommendations, but we are asking for 2 of the conditions to be modified slightly. On page 12, condition 7, can we add to the condition resolve with ADOT? DeArmond is a state-owned road, and this modification would let us coordinate with them on the street light. The second modification is for condition 8A. The last sentence in the paragraph requires an aquifer test. Now, old code required this, but since 2014 with existing code, this is not required. I'll defer any questions about aquifer tests and water to the engineers, but this is a comment we keep seeing added in, even though it is not required in any code, and it's a very expensive test. Even in the comment itself, it says that this test was removed from Anchorage Municipal Code. Also, the developer will be the home builder and will have to prove each well and septic meet standards already. So with those 2 modifications, I would like to ask the board to approve this plat and variance. Thank you for your time, and I will reserve the rest of my time for any rebuttal.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
Could you reiterate your proposed change to number 7? I got your 8, paragraph A.
Through the chair. So condition 7 was resolve with ADOT the need to provide a street light. And condition 8A was to remove the requirement for an aquifer test in that last sentence in that 8A paragraph.
Okay, I read 7 as just provide a street light at the intersection of DeArmond Road. I don't see that there's anything to, that's a definitive statement.
Yeah, that is a correct statement, that it's written as provide definitively, and he is asking for some opportunity to
Rebut that.
or to deal with, have ADOT be the one that makes that determination. And we can talk
about that later. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for petitioner's representative? You have 7 minutes and 45 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's going to make the phone calls? Okay. I can do that. Do we have any members of the public that are present in the room with us now that would like to comment on this matter? If not, then our secretary of the day will make a phone call to those calling in.
Hello?
Hi, is this Matt Blakensley?
Yes, it is.
This is the Platting Board calling for public testimony on case S12607. Are you testifying as, as an individual or representing a group?
Representing the Rabbit Creek Community Council.
All righty. You have 5 minutes to provide your testimony. Please state your full name for the record, and then you can begin.
Okay. My name is Matthew Blakesley, and I am providing this testimony on behalf of the Rabbit Creek Community Council and the residents of Our Own Lane. I am a resident of Our Own Lane, and I am the adjacent downslope property owner of the Palaterra development, or proposed development. Additionally, I'm an engineering geologist that works here in town for an engineering group, in a geotechnical engineering group here in town. The purpose of this testimony is to voice the concerns that the community has regarding the development, which were discussed and voted on during our April 8th, 2021 public meeting, and then documented in a letter provided to the Platting Board on April 20th, 2021. Also, our concerns and requests for additional information were corroborated with the Municipality of Anchorage's Geotechnical Advisory Commission, who provided their own letter to the Platting Board dated May 5th, 2021. Our most immediate concerns are regarding the slope on the southern portion of the lot, and regards to the slope stability and the groundwater impacts that this development will have on that slope. The slope spans lots 5 through 7 and is a naturally vegetated slope over 100 feet vertically, with gradients ranging from 30 to over 50%. When vegetation is removed from this slope, it's highly susceptible to erosion and slope failures, and it's been proven that on the same slope less than a quarter mile away, which we've documented in our letter on figure 1. You can see that that image shows a slope failure on that slope where the property owner had cleared trees and attempted to develop the slope. And while this slope failure occurred in November 2019 and was limited to that property owner's lot, there are still impacts to groundwater coming out of that slope failure that flow out onto Our Own Lane. The area of the slope where the proposed Palaterra lot is lots 5, 6, and 7 naturally has groundwater seeps at the toe of the slope already, which are a result of groundwater traveling down that slope from the area where the proposed subdivision will be planned. Our concern is that creating impermeable surfaces such as roads, buildings, walkways will increase runoff water, and precipitation will have more direct route into the groundwater system. Additionally, each lot will have an on-site septic system consisting of a drain field designed to output 150 gallons of water per bedroom per day. For 12 lots, an estimated 4-bedroom houses, that's over 7,000 gallons of water entered into the groundwater system each day in that area, which will likely drain down the slope because the entire area is sloping towards the steep slope on the south and the southwest. This will likely cause significant seepage and drainage problems on Our Own Lane and any adjacent properties downslope. Also, increased water impacts soil strength parameters and in the subsurface material, increasing the risk for a larger or global slope stability issue or a landslide. This increased risk of slope stability or landslide has the potential to cause substantial damage to infrastructure and properties at the toe of the slope, as well as any new developments at the top of the slope. Documented in our letter, we are requesting more information so that this geological hazard can be understood by the municipality's planning board and either mitigated or eliminated before approval of the plat. In the staff report, the private development group requests the non-disturbance easement area over 30% slopes, which is, while this is great for preventing vegetation removal and erosion concerns, it does not address the key concern of increased volume of groundwater and the risk that it proposes to the global slope stability. We would like to request a slope stability evaluation that quantifies the impact that the subdivision will, as a whole, will have on the groundwater and the static and seismic slope stability. Lastly, the Community Council discussed a trail request per Title 21 in the Hillside Development Plan, but this should only be considered if it will not impact the previously discussed concerns. And lastly, we don't have any concerns or objections with the variance on the proposed entry road.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Matt Blakesley?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. Kevin Cross, you have the floor.
Matt, again, you were looking for, and forgive me, I was taking some notes and reading through the packet here. A soil stability test of that area to the south. What was it that you were specifically requesting?
A slope stability evaluation.
Slope stability evaluation. Thank you.
Through the chair, this is Don Porter. May I ask a question?
Yes, Don, you have the floor.
Yeah, my name is Don Porter. I'm on the Platting Board, participating remotely. I was reading the letter signed by Ann Rappaport, the co-chair. Are you familiar with this letter?
Okay.
Yes.
Item 4 is requesting a sustainable trail connection from the internal and maybe crisscrossing down the slope. Is that correct?
That would be correct if it can be done without addressing the concerns above that in the letter.
Right. It really seems a little bit, you're on the one hand, you're asking for no development on that, and then on the other hand, you're asking to align a trail through that same vegetative barrier that's going to retain the slope. But I hear what you're saying is that it's obviously more important to retain the natural vegetation, and that appears to be what is the largest concern, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, and that's why they're in the order they are in the letter.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because it does seem a bit counter to each of, and so the most important thing is to retain the natural vegetation to control drainage.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Blakesley? Seeing and hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Blakesley, for your testimony this evening.
Thank you.
That concludes our call-in testimony. Are there any other people in the room wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing and hearing none, we will return to the petitioner's representative for rebuttal.
Through the chair, this is Craig Bennett. I just want to say a slope analysis is not required by code, and I'll hand this over to Keith, Northern Geotechnical, to answer, I guess, more on the slope itself.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Keith Mobley. I'm the president of Northern Geotechnical Engineering. We did do a slope stability analysis, I'll say a preliminary slope stability analysis after reading the comments from the Geotechnical Advisory Commission. The analysis that was done previously used very low values for strength of the soils. We redid the analysis using appropriate values for the glacial till that is predominantly underneath the site, and it shows that the static stability of that slope is in the order of 3, and that with the pseudostatic using a seismic loading that the Geotechnical Advisory Commission has recommended shows a factor of safety of 1.6, which is far greater than the 1.1 that is typically the minimum that the municipality requires. The other thing is that the groundwater on that site is at or below the level of Rabbit Creek, which is below our lane and below 150 to 200 feet below the elevation of the developed part of the proposed subdivision. So groundwater itself will have absolutely no impact on the stability. There will be water in the upper soils that the slope, as it is not disturbed, will remain not disturbed. And it will, you know, if there is any development, including trails, there's likely going to be some increased capacity for instability on that slope. So any further information, I can answer questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Keith Mobley?
Mr. Mobley. Matt, with the Rabbit Creek Community Council brought up that a good point that I'm kind of curious. As you're testing these slopes, and this is an over 30 degree, which you said was with glacial till. I'm kind of familiar with this area. I am familiar with several of the houses that were damaged by the collapsing slope. Of course, they did cut into that abatement on what is it, our own lane?
Yes.
There was a property last year that was knocked off its foundation. I'm very familiar with that one. That
yes.
one suffered severe damage. I do know they cut into that bank, which is not recommended, and that was complicated. They got down into that glacial till, and of course, they couldn't keep up with it. It was just falling away. And I see that it doesn't look like there's any intention to disturb those soils to prevent that. However, glacial till soils do not absorb water like other kinds of soils, and he makes a good reference as to the leach fields and all the surface water that's going to be generated. Obviously, you're going to have the runoff from roofs, that lack of vegetation, so you have runoff from properties, driveways, water. How is that taken into consideration in magnitude when we're dealing with something that has glacial till soils and such a drastic slope on the south?
As long as the vegetation is not disturbed, natural precipitation in that area, we haven't found any real data, and I have done some measurements at my own house, which is farther up the hill than this, but as an estimate, the precipitation on that property is going to be in the order of 20 to 30 inches a year. And if you calculate how much precipitation equivalent that you would have from a leach field system, it comes out to 4 or 5 inches a year. So that is within the variability of the natural precipitation. So I don't believe that the leach fields will show any difference over time than what we see right now.
Okay, and then again, unlike the other ones, just to note, as long as they're not cutting into that slope, which in leaving the natural vegetation, that's how it maintains its integrity.
Yes, it's very important to leave all of the vegetation undisturbed.
All right, thank you.
Does that raise any other questions from the board?
Through the chair, this is Don Porter. May I ask the petitioner?
Yes, Mr. Porter, you have the floor.
Maybe somebody from the petitioner's team could just explain that there is a offset required for the septic systems from the steep slope. For the septic system drain field?
Yeah, this is Grant Matthews with Triad Engineering, MATHEWS, through the chair. That's correct. The Chapter 15 of Anchorage Code has offset requirements for leach fields. I believe it's 50 feet for conventional systems, and it can be reduced to 35 feet for advanced treatment systems, but there's quite a few different requirements for steep slope development, specifically in regards to septic systems.
So to paraphrase, they're not going to be able to put the septic leach field right up on the edge of the slope, it's going to have to be set back, and water generally travels vertically down.
That's correct. And just to expand on Keith's point there, just the rainfall in the area is far exceeds any type of water that would be introduced through the wastewater effluent into the leach field. You know, we designed the drainage systems to be able to bypass a 100-year storm event and has to convey the 10-year storm event. So it's a 24-hour storm that occurs once every 10 years. And that amount of precipitation is far greater than what these septic systems would put into the ground over the course of months.
Thank you very much.
You may proceed with, you still have 4 minutes and 56 seconds if you have.
I could speak a little bit more to the drainage design. In this type of instance, we'll likely use some green infrastructure to offset the impervious area. So often that can be rain gardens or soak-away pits, something that can capture and retain the roof runoff or runoff from the driveways, and it can be evaporated or through transpiration taken up by the natural vegetation. So there's a number of different design strategies to deal with the increase in impervious area. The Anchorage drainage code is very stringent. We're only allowed to increase runoff by 5%, but we have to offset any increase through some type of mitigation, and that all gets reviewed under the subdivision process through private development. So there's quite a few checks and balances for the development process and what we're proposing.
Thank you. And in the petitioner's rebuttal, did they have any other issues they wanted to address?
Through the chair, this is Brandon Marcotte, again with Triad Engineering, M-A-R-C-O-T-T. I just wanted to speak to Mr. Cross's question on the streetlight request. Traffic department obviously is with the municipality of Anchorage is asking for a streetlight. The right-of-way in which the streetlight would go is reviewed, maintained, and approved through DOT. And so we just see a little bit of a catch-22 here where the municipality might be requiring something that DOT might have issue with, and we just want the ability to resolve that through the permitting process with DOT. We've submitted for an approach road permit with them as of last week, so we were starting that process. And if they require a streetlight, we're happy to put one in, but we just don't want to be caught in a position where we would actually have to come back before this body to ask for a modification in case DOT has an issue with it for whatever reason. So we're just asking for a little bit of flexibility there in case they have a different viewpoint on the subject. And that was the only item I needed to clarify, unless there's any other questions for me.
Well, on that subject, we're giving you a variance, and the reason that they want the space in between those collections, because that's going to be a school bus stop, right? Which means you have kids crossing the street right there on an unlit intersection. So it wouldn't be such an issue if you didn't have kids crossing the street, because it would be less inclined, but kids are running across at night or when it's dark. So I guess I'm looking at this like you're wanting a variance in order to move two streets across from each other instead of the distance apart that they're required, and the only way you get that is if it's safe. And in order for it to be safe, we're going to need a light there. So I understand wanting to work it out with DOT, but I think very strongly that there should be a light there if we're going to give you a variance, and it's going to potentially jeopardize public safety. So I'm less inclined. I understand your B as far as the proposed subdivision with the aquifer test, but I guess I just want to, I guess if we're going to give a variance, then we need to make sure the reason it was written that was there to begin, it was a public safety issue. Now, if we're going to create a less safe situation, a street light would seem to be the most logical solution to that. So I'll have to think about that a little bit. Maybe we can talk about that more through the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on that issue for the streetlight? I guess one question I might have is, if the board was so inclined to actually require a streetlight because of the safety issue, what other, but this ADOT says no streetlight, then what other safety feature would you offer?
Well, I guess the intent of the variance letter was to show that this was the safest location possible. And I suppose a streetlight would be in addition to increasing the traffic safety in the area. You know, the traffic count is going to be considerably low. 114 trips per day is not significant by any stretch. This is in a location where traffic's going to be slowing towards a four-way stop, or it'll be accelerating from a four-way stop. So speed limits are already going to be below the posted speed of 40 miles an hour. So the configuration of the subdivision is increasing traffic safety, I think, considerably here. I don't know that there's anything else we could really add without DOT's input that wouldn't really put us in a bit of a pinch. You know, a four-way stop, I can guarantee, would not be approved by them.
Yes, thank you. Does the petitioner have anything further? With that, they rest. Does the board have any other questions for the petitioner? Seeing and hearing none, the matter now rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the variance request from AMC 2108-030 F5? Kevin Cross has moved, and we're looking for a second. Mark Seward has seconded. Kevin, would you like to speak to your motion?
Regarding case 12607, Planetara subdivisions, lots 1 through 6, tract A. I move to approve the variance request from variance AMC 21.08.030 F.5 street intersections of requiring the distance intersection center lines to be at least 150 feet to allow the petitioner to exceed the minimum distance for an unnamed subdivision street, subject to 1, recording a suitable plat within 24 months of preliminary approval.
Thank you. Mark Seward has seconded your motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, as stated in the staff packets on pages, as well as, starting on 3 and extending through pages 10. There are multiple criteria that are required. It does show that this would put unreasonable demands on the petitioner. It is also, due to the topography of the slopes, the most safest. It is the safest place in order to locate that intersection. And I'll end there.
Thank you. Do we have any other findings the board would like to make? Yes, I would like to make the additional findings that this lot can't be addressed from our own lane. It's too steep from that direction. Cul-de-sacs are to either side, Corright Lane and Lamb Lane. This leaves only the D'Armond Road access to the,
D'Armond Road.
Yeah, D'Armond Road. There is a Buena Vista Drive, but that's on a steep section as well. The easiest access is the right-hand side corner, which unfortunately is offset from Saunders Road across the other side. I would be supporting the motion for placing the road along cul-de-sac at this location due to that. Is there any other findings the board would like to make? If not, then I'll call the vote. Oh, Mark Seward.
This might be more in line of a question with the petitioners or staff. Can we, that item 7, resolve with ADOT, which the petitioner wishes to do, can we possibly combine that resolve with ADOT and Municipality of Anchorage? Is that?
Through the chair, point of order, Mark, Mr. Seward. I think we're just voting on A for the approval of the design variance.
Okay.
And then we'll go to B next, and that's,
Okay,
that's when you can bring that up.
Thank you. Any further findings on motion on the floor for Part A? Seeing and hearing none, seeing no one online. With that, we'll call the vote.
Mr. Porter?
Aye.
Ms. Watson?
Yes.
Ms. McGillivray?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Seward?
Yes.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
And Chair Walker?
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll next turn our attention to approval of the plat for 24 months, subject to conditions 1 through 13 on pages 11 through 13.
Through the chair, could you refresh my memory on how we handle a petitioner's request to amend?
One way to handle it is simply to move, I mean, you can either move to do it as it's written, or you can move to do it as they propose, either way.
Can you refresh my memory? There's an advantage or disadvantage one way or the other. Would you be so kind?
The advantage of doing it as written is it's easy to state.
Okay, and then do you amend it after you make the motion?
Then we can make a motion
Okay.
to amend, and then we can
Thank
argue
you.
about those
It's
changes.
been a while since I had to do that, so I had to refresh my memory. I appreciate you.
Yep. So we're looking for a motion on approving the plat for 24 months with conditions. Kevin Cross has made the motion. Would you like to state your motion?
Yes, regarding plat S12607, Planetara subdivisions, lots 1 through 6, tract A. Give me just a second, forgive me. Move to approve the plat for 24 months, subject to the following conditions. Conditions 1, 2, 3, 3A, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8A, and 8B, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12A, B, C, D, and E, F, G, and 13, 13A. Thank you.
Thank you. That motion has been seconded by Valerie Ritz. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I would, and I'd like to make a motion for some adjustments. This is the proper time to do them.
Thank you.
I would move that under 8A, I would move to remove the final sentence, a proposed subdivision with more than 5 lots to be served with private wells must have an aquifer test performed by hydrologists. We've been through this before. And then also I would like to amend 13A to remove Lot 1.
Thank you. And do we have a second for the Motion to amend on the floor.
Jana Waldstein, I would second.
Thank you. Jan Welton has seconded the motion. Kevin, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, most of the petitioners, most of the requests, including the letters we realize that this project with the steep slopes to the south, there's a lot in here that deals with, not changing grade and making sure. So, there's a lot of requirements in here, specifically under paragraph 4, submit to private development review for approval of comprehensive site draining and drainage plan to resolve the need for drainage easements.
Kevin,
drainage.
Are you talking about your amendment?
Oh, I was talking about my approval, and I was talking about it all.
No, just give us the amendment, and then we'll get.
All right,
then we'll
based
get back
on
to
the
other
amendment?
piece.
All right,
Yep.
and then we'll talk about it. So I'll just talk to my amendment. As far as the proposed subdivision with more than 5 lots to be served with private wells must have an aquifer test performed by hydrologists. We have been through this before, and I agree with the petitioner. This is something that they've been sliding in there. It is not required. It is above and beyond the code requirement for well testing. I would also like to add that the COSA that is required for residential properties is actually a rather I would say, intensive tests, and if the property does not meet the basic COSA requirements, which are already required to do, it's not financeable, meaning that it has to pass MUNI inspections and requirements. In fact, if it doesn't produce at least 3 gallons per minute, it's not financeable without having a water pump and holding tanks. So I know that the existing residential requirements for wells is already very heavy, and this extra aquifer test, that's the reason that they don't require it for lots, for developments this size, is just because it's so cost prohibitive when we already have a very extreme testing requirement put in place for wells. And the second part is just a plat note of foot radius that was as requested through the chair, and just a note there that that wasn't necessary, and that was cleaning up the wordage on 13A.
It should just be reading lot 12.
Excuse me, yes, thank you, on lots 12.
Are there any other findings on the amendment? Seeing and hearing none, we'll call the vote on the amendment to items 8 and 13. Valerie Ritz, oh no, Jana Welton, that is correct. Jana Welton is the second on the amendment.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Ms. Weltzine?
Yes.
Ms. McGillivray?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Seward?
Yes.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
And Chair Walker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other amendments you want to make at this time? Seeing and hearing none, go ahead and speak to the remaining motion on the floor at this time.
Thank you. I will note here that I didn't amend 7 just because I feel as if the 2 intersections being close to each other needs a street light. I don't think that's, and I don't want to wait an out. I think that's going to be a safety issue. And I think the 140 cars a day that they said doesn't, I used to live in that area, and I can't believe it's that low on that intersection. So I'm not sure if that was just that street or just the 2 intersections, but I've sold several houses on Saunders and in that area in just the last year, and I think that's, I'm very familiar with that intersection. If you're going to put another one there, I'm going to say put a light. Regarding the rest of the items in the approval, again, the public testimony and the biggest concern that's going to come up here is it's a pretty cut and dry subdivision, nothing out of the ordinary except for those extreme southern slopes. And I just want to make sure that you understand that that is going to be the biggest concern of any resident that lives to the south, especially along that our own lane, where several of those houses have already been damaged by some of those, but we do have a much higher qualification for testing soils and as far as slope stability. And in number 4, it's going to submit to private development review and approval of comprehensive site grading and drainage to resolve the need for drainage easements and drainage improvements, and to demonstrate that all post-development drainage patterns do not adversely impact adjacent properties or rights-of-way. And that slope will primarily be jeopardized because of drainage and water, and so their water and their drainage plan will have to take that into consideration, as well as the location of the septic. So Based on the requirements and the department requirements in order to develop this lot, I believe that enough information will be obtained that will either resolve that issue, and if they cannot resolve this issue, they just simply will not build on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other findings that the board would like to make?
This is Don Porter, request to speak.
Don, you have the floor.
In regards to item 7 of provide a streetlight, I would like to add a finding that there appears to be a streetlight at Foster, and of course there are streetlights at the Hillside DeArmond intersection, but Foster is a much more near this type of situation, and so this is not. DOT is already aware that there of other streetlights along the DeArmond that are not at main intersections. And so I will be supporting this, and I support the request for a streetlight. And I also support the item 8, submit plans, data, and test engineering reports to on-site. So I will be supporting the entire amended request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And do we have any other findings from the board? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Ms. Weltine?
Yes.
Ms. McGillivray?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Seward?
No.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
Chair Walker?
Yes.
Thank you.
And with that, the motion passes. We'll now turn our attention to case. One moment, we're changing system operators here. And with that, we'll now go ahead and take up case S12610, petitioner Michael Quinn Construction Incorporated. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to remove plat number 6 from plat 2020-31, which is the Roseberry Highlands subdivision, lot 1A. The plat note 6 reads, all new dwellings shall be equipped with residential sprinkler system, or until such time as a connection to secondary fire apparatus access road is constructed and approved. So the applicant asserts that this plat note is not necessary because shortly after the time of recording the subdivision plat, the International Fire Code section 507.1 was amended to exempt single-family dwellings in areas not served by a water utility to be required to install sprinklers. So the plat with the note was recorded on April 24th of 2020, and the code was amended by October 27th, 2020. The property owner states that they will implement a fire prevention plan by following the Wildland Urban Interface Code for clearing any trees or combustible brush surrounding the home, using composite building materials, fire-resistant shingles, flame-retardant approved exterior paint, and installing a 600-gallon holding tank to supply exterior hose bibs. Removal of the plat note would not reduce protections that are in place for surrounding property, nor would it apply a less restrictive code to the property. Planning staff recognizes the property is not serviced by a water utility. However, the home's located 3.1 miles from Fire Station 11 and approximately 3,750 feet from the closest fire hydrant on municipal water. So that close proximity to a fire hydrant and fire station was a weighing factor in planning supporting the approval of the plat note removal. So Community Council and public comments. The Eagle River Valley Community Council, they did provide comments that was forwarded to you, and they sent in a unanimously voted to support the request. So that's on file there. Okay, so we'll get into the staff analysis. So the criteria listed that must be met for successful removal or modification of a plat note. There's conditions A, B, C, and for this, and staff finds that condition A, that they required the plat note, that those have changed because on October 20th, the International Fire Code was amended to allow construction to continue in areas not served by a water utility and are generally in areas that coincide with the wildland-urban interface. By allowing single-family homes to be exempt to the requirement of sprinkling. So, condition B, staff finds that has been met. Removal of the plat note will not have a negative effect on neighboring properties. The property owner has stated they are adopting an identical fire protection plan implemented on 3 of the 4 existing homes built in Roseberry Highlands. That includes that outdoor faucet connection to a 600-gallon holding tank. Removal of the plat note would not reduce protection of the adjacent subdivisions of Roseberry Ridge and Roseberry Ridge Addition Number 1. None of the reviewing agencies have any objection to the removal of the plat. Standard C, Plat 2020-31 would continue to meet the approval criteria for subdivisions found in Section 2103-200C9. If plat note number 6 is removed. The existing subdivision still facilitates the orderly and efficient layout and use of the land to the maximum extent feasible, even without the restrictive plat note, as the owner's fire prevention plan increases safety for the surrounding area. The existing plat combined 2 lots into one larger lot that reduced the overall number of buildable lots within the subdivision and allows the homeowner to provide a larger defensible space for landscaping that follows that wildland-urban interface code. So with that being said, the department recommends approval of the plat note removal found with condition 1A found on page 4 of the staff packet. I can answer any questions, and the petitioner is here as well to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff? Seeing and hearing none, may we have petitioner's representative?
Good evening, Chairman Walker and ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Donna Bell Shepard, and I'm also here with my co-petitioners, my husband Mark Shepard, and Mike Quinn and Skylar Quinn of Michael Quinn Construction. We are here to request to remove the plat note number 6 from Plat 2020-31 Roseberry Highlands, Lot 1A. And we agree with the staff analysis and the recommendation contained in the staff report. I'd like to reserve the remaining time for rebuttal.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for, you said it was Donna Shepard?
Donna Bell.
Donna Bell.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions? Don't have any questions right now. And you have 9 minutes and 24 seconds for rebuttal. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on the matter? Do we have anyone that's going to be calling in? We have no one who registered to call in, and so with that, we'll turn it back over to Donna Bell Shepard for rebuttal. After the public vociferous debate here, did you want to say anything?
And thank you for the opportunity to come here and hear our case. Thank you.
And with that, the matter now rests with the board. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the request to modify the plat note? Kevin Cross has moved, and the motion is being seconded by Valerie Ritz. Kevin, would you like to state your motion?
In regards to case S12610, Roseberry Highlands lights, for Roseberry Highlands subdivision lots 1A on plat 2020-31, I move to remove the restrictive note number 6 from plat number 2020-31 that states all new dwellings shall be equipped with a residential sprinkler system installed in accordance to NFPA 13 or until such time as a connection to a second fire apparatus access road is constructed and approved for the internal fire code, subject to A.
Thank you, and that has been seconded by Valerie Ritz. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I think Clayton knows, but not many of you know, that I spent almost 16 years in the fire protection contractor as a union and non-union fire protection contractor dealing with both special hazard and sprinkler systems. And I'm very familiar with the, let's just say, the NFPA and the insurance lobby and what they've done in order to make this mandatory in construction because it's very lucrative. However, I will tell you that I'll refrain from my own personal opinions that, and I will just state that what the staff has lined out on why you deserve this variance is well documented on pages 2, 3. And I support this wholeheartedly.
Thank you. And do we have any other findings the board would like to make? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Ms. Weltson?
Yes.
Ms. McGillivray?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Seward?
Yes.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
Chair Walker?
Yes. And with that, the motion passes. Are there any appearance requests tonight? Are there any other persons to be heard? Any reports? Seeing and hearing none, we will now stand at adjournment. It is 7:47.